I got into Doctor Who through my uncle, who grew up watching it back in Scotland. He used to tell me bedtime stories of episodes of Doctor Who that he could remember from his childhood. I remember at some point we got a couple episodes on VHS from like a pawn shop or something. And I remember this very clearly because I finally had a visual to go with these bedtime stories that my uncle told me. Like the way I picture the Daleks was was so silly in comparison to how they actually looked, which itself is pretty silly. Now I remember around 2005, 2006. I'm not exactly sure when. Things kind of reversed. It was me who introduced my uncle to the new Doctor Who show, and I remember he was very apprehensive about it at first. He's like, "You can't remake Doctor Who." But he warmed up to that new show very quickly, and it was something that we bonded over. Stuff like Doctor Who and Star Trek are things that hold a very special place to me because of bonding with my uncle over them. Now, I really liked the first season or series of the rebooted Doctor Who. I loved Christopher Eccleston. I thought he was a perfect first Doctor for that rebooted series. But I didn't really start loving the show until David Tennant took the role. The third series, to me, stands out to be the best of the entire rebooted franchise, at least as much of it as I've seen. The fourth season was pretty weak. I felt the writing was pretty poor. I felt David Tennant was he was kind of going through the motions. He didn't feel totally invested in the role as he had in the previous two seasons, and it was starting to feel like things should change. And I mean, David Tennant's performance could carry anything, I think, but it was evident that some change was needed. And the 2009 specials are, to me, where the show really ended. Now, Stephen Moffat wrote some amazing episodes underneath the supervision of Russell T Davies. So when I heard that he was going to be the next showrunner, well, I was excited. I was genuinely excited. And then I saw the product that he created. I hate Matt Smith as the Doctor. I've seen all the Doctors up to 12, and I think he's the worst. I recall watching a particularly bad episode in Series 5. And I got a call from my uncle. And I'll never forget this. He told me, "Joey, I've been watching this show since I was 6 years old, and John Pertwee was the Doctor. This isn't Doctor Who. This is a parody. I'm done with this garbage." I remember being really shocked. But, I've often stuck through some of the worst science fiction shows in hopes that they get better, so I persevered. I kept on watching. Now, until this point, running into a Doctor Who fan was pretty rare. But something was happening in America that was pretty surprising, honestly. Doctor Who was actually becoming mainstream. Not that there's anything particularly wrong with that, but when it first started happening, I got so excited. I finally could share my opinions and thoughts on the show that I've loved for so long. I loved this show before I even seen the show, back when it was just bedtime stories. But these new fans were so rude and aggressive and just flat out toxic. And to this day, they still act like Doctor Who is this niche thing that like it's so rare to stumble across another Doctor Who fan, even though it's so insanely popular that you can buy Doctor Who merch at your local Walmart. I feel like every time I see this happen, when I see two Doctor Who fans engage with one another, they're like, "Wow, you like that incredibly popular and mainstream thing too?" And to make matters worse for me, a lot of these new Doctor Who fans were the people who bullied me in middle school and high school for liking Doctor Who. One of these people actually had the nerve to tell me I wasn't a true fan because I didn't like Matt Smith. Then the same girl goes on Facebook and talks about how guy nerds don't take her seriously and she feels like she has to prove her nerdiness. Well, maybe it's not sexism that's doing that. Maybe it's the fact that you bullied these dudes and made fun of their quirky little science fiction shows and made them feel like crap for years. And now, when you just 360'd and suddenly like the show the moment it's popular, maybe that's what they have a problem with. Maybe that's why they think you're faking. Maybe that's why they think you're a fake nerd. Maybe it has nothing to do with your gender. Now, at this point, I still considered myself a fan. I thought I just had to persevere through more bad writing and poor acting and bad continuity and characters with no depth. But there was some light at the end of the tunnel. Peter Capaldi was announced as the next Doctor. And I was so excited. I couldn't think of a more perfect person to play the Doctor than Peter Capaldi. He was a fan. He had the look. He had the mannerisms. If anyone could do it, he could. He could pull it off. The only person more perfect to play the Doctor was Benedict Cumberbatch to play the Master. Perfect casting. And when he finally showed up on screen, he was amazing. Out of the new Doctors, if it wasn't for the fact that the writing actually got worse, I would actually say that he would be my favorite Doctor of the new series. But the fact of the matter is, the writing got even worse. You had this amazing actor that was practically born for the role, and they gave him nothing to work with. They gave him the worst stories. Now, I love social, political, and commercial commentary. I eat that crap up by the spoonful. Social, political, and commercial commentary should be layered into your storytelling. Not directly told to your audience as if they're stupid. Stop the entire program, write your message on the end of a sledgehammer, and then beat the message into your audience until there's nothing left but a bloody pulp. I can't tell you how many times I've been watching Doctor Who, and the whole episode will just stop, and a character will just turn to the camera and be like, hey, this is the writer's political opinions. And even when I agree with these political opinions, I just don't understand why the whole show just stopped to preach to the choir. I agree with what my uncle said all those years ago. The show has become a parody of itself. A lot of the faults with the old show, there's excuses, there's budgetary restraints, restraints of the time period. New Doctor Who just became purposely bad. It became the Sharknado of British science fiction. I would actually go as far as to say the show has become cringy in the way it's being handled. I stopped watching Doctor Who in its 8th season. Despite Peter Capaldi's amazing performance, the show had reached a point that I just wasn't enjoying it anymore. I actually hid all my Doctor Who merch, which mostly consisted of classic episodes on DVD. I hid it so I wouldn't have to talk to people about Doctor Who when we had company over. And to me, the show is over. It ended in 2009. I am moving on. I am no longer a slave to this franchise. And just because I'm not watching any more of the rebooted Doctor Who doesn't mean I'm not watching old Doctor Who. I still love those classic cheesy episodes. They still hold a special place in my heart. I just can't stand the new Doctor Who. I know this may be surprising to hear considering all the stuff I've just said, but in my freshman year of high school, I was known as the Doctor Who guy. And to this day, I still get asked questions about any change in the show. And I wash my hands of the new show. That doesn't mean I'm not watching the old show anymore. No, I'm still collecting old classic episodes of Doctor Who. I still got those. I still got the first 4 seasons and the 2009 specials of the new show. I'm just not a slave to this franchise anymore. But for me personally, the show was ruined by its toxic fans and poor writing. But if you still like the new show, that is A-okay. I'm not saying my opinion is right and you are wrong. Everyone has their own opinion on the show, and you may have some great counter arguments to mine about the quality of the show. You might actually be the correct one when talking about the show's writing. All I'm saying is, for me, I don't like it anymore. I haven't liked it in a long time. And the reason why I'm making this video and putting this out there is so people will stop asking me about all the changes in the show. Because I know I'm going to get questions about the new Doctor. And my answer to that is, I don't care. I don't think it's going to be handled very well, because I don't think the show as a whole has been handled very well since 2011.